It was a warm Friday afternoon, and the sun cast long shadows over Elm Street on the outskirts of Centerville's bustling downtown. Officer Derek Sloan sat in his patrol car, finishing the last sip of his lukewarm coffee. Derek was the kind of officer who believed his badge gave him the authority to act as he pleased. He often wore his power like armor, intimidating those who crossed his path. But today, his badge would lead him into a situation that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Across the street, a tall black man in a sharp, dark suit emerged from a local cafe. His name was Nathan Carter. He carried himself with quiet confidence, a calm yet commanding presence. Though he had grown up in Centerville, Nathan had spent the past several years working in another city. Unbeknownst to anyone on that street, Nathan had recently been promoted to captain and assigned to the precinct where Derek worked. But Derek wouldn't learn this crucial detail until it was far too late. As Nathan began crossing the street, Derek's attention shifted from his coffee to the man approaching his patrol car. Nathan's movements were unassuming, yet Derek's eyes narrowed with suspicion. To Derek, it didn't take much for someone to be a problem. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel, his jaw clenching as irrational annoyance bubbled within him. In his mind, authority wasn't something to be respected, it was something to be enforced. And today, he intended to enforce it. Derek stepped out of his car abruptly, slamming the door behind him. His movements were sharp and deliberate, a performance meant to assert dominance. "Hey, you! What are you doing around here?" he barked, marching toward Nathan with a confrontational glare. The aggression in his voice was meant to intimidate, to rattle the stranger before him. Nathan stopped in his tracks, his calm eyes meeting Derek's. There was no fear in Nathan's expression, only a quiet determination. "I'm just heading to a meeting," Nathan replied evenly, his tone respectful yet firm. His words were measured, but they carried an underlying strength that Derek failed to notice. Derek sneered, his lips curling into a mocking grin. "You don't look like you're heading anywhere important. Got ID on you?" he demanded, stepping closer to Nathan, invading his personal space. The question wasn't about protocol. It was a challenge, a test to see how far he could push. Nathan nodded calmly, reaching into his jacket with deliberate slowness. "Of course, officer. Let me show you," he said, maintaining his composure. There was no hostility in his movements, only a careful awareness of the situation. Nathan had dealt with men like Derek before, and he knew how quickly things could escalate. But before Nathan could retrieve his wallet, Derek's simmering frustration boiled over. "You think you can just stroll around here like you own the place?" Derek snapped, grabbing Nathan roughly by the arm. The act was so sudden that Nathan barely had time to react. Derek's fist collided with his face in a brutal punch. Nathan staggered but stayed on his feet. A gasp rippled through the street as passersby froze. Nathan touched his face where Derek's fist had landed, his fingers brushing over the pain. Derek stood tall, a smug smirk spreading across his face. "Maybe now you'll learn some respect," he said, his voice dripping with condescension as he turned to walk away. To him, the matter was settled. He had asserted his dominance and silenced a perceived challenge to his authority. But Nathan wasn't done. "Officer Sloan," Nathan said, his voice steady but laced with an authority that hadn't been there before. Derek paused mid-step, his smirk faltering slightly as he turned back around. "You just made a huge mistake," Nathan continued, his eyes locking onto Derek's with an intensity that made the officer shift uncomfortably. The quiet confidence that had defined Nathan earlier was now replaced by an undeniable sense of command. Derek scoffed, his arrogance shielding him from the weight of Nathan's words. "Oh yeah? And what mistake would that be?" he said mockingly. His tone was dismissive, but the first seeds of doubt had begun to take root. Nathan stepped forward, his posture straight and commanding. "I am Captain Nathan Carter, your new commanding officer at this precinct," he said. Derek froze, his face paling. "What did you say?" he stammered, his voice cracking. "You heard me," Nathan said firmly. "You assaulted a superior officer, and I will be filing formal charges against you." Nathan took out his phone and dialed a number, his movements deliberate and unhurried. Derek watched helplessly as Nathan spoke into the receiver. "This is Captain Carter. I need a unit at Elm and 3rd Avenue. There's been an incident involving Officer Derek Sloan." "Assault charges will be filed," Nathan said, his voice steady and professional. Within minutes, the distant sound of sirens filled the air. 2 patrol cars pulled up, their lights flashing as officers stepped out. Among them was Sergeant Palmer, a seasoned officer with over 20 years on the force. She approached Nathan, her expression a mix of respect and concern. "Captain Carter," she said, nodding respectfully before turning her gaze to Derek. Her brow furrowed as she took in his pale, sweating face. "What's going on here?" Sergeant Nathan began, his tone firm. "Officer Sloan assaulted me without provocation. I am pressing charges." Palmer's eyes widened in shock as she looked back at Derek. "Is this true, Derek?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with disappointment. Derek stammered, his usual bravado shattered. I didn't know he was." Palmer cut him off. "It doesn't matter who he is. You struck a superior officer. That is unacceptable," she signaled to the other officers, who stepped forward and placed handcuffs on Derek. His colleagues, people he had laughed and shared coffee with, now avoided his eyes as they carried out their duty. As the cuffs clicked shut around his wrists, Derek felt the cold metal bite into his skin. He didn't resist. He knew it was over. The patrol car door slammed shut behind him, sealing his fate. Back on the street, Nathan stood with Palmer, his expression unreadable. "Make sure this is handled by the book," Sergeant Nathan said. "I'll be filing the official charges when I return to the station." Palmer nodded. "Understood, Captain." As Nathan watched the patrol car disappear into the distance, he let out a quiet sigh. He hadn't wanted his first day as captain to start this way. Accountability was non-negotiable. Derek had to learn that power came with responsibility. Nathan adjusted his jacket and turned to leave. The whispers of the onlookers faded as he walked back toward the precinct, steady and ready to face the challenges ahead. Back at the precinct, Nathan immediately called for a meeting with all the officers under his command. The room buzzed with uncertainty as they gathered. "What happened today will not define this precinct," Nathan began, his tone firm yet understanding. "But it is a stark reminder of the power we hold and the responsibility that comes with it." He detailed the incident involving Derek Sloan, emphasizing that no officer was above the law. Over the following weeks, Nathan introduced comprehensive training programs focusing on implicit bias, de-escalation techniques, and community engagement. He spent time personally meeting with local community leaders to rebuild trust. His efforts began to show results as both the precinct and the community started to heal. Officers like Sergeant Palmer became instrumental in championing the new culture of accountability and respect that Nathan was fostering. Thank you for watching this story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell for more compelling stories. Have a great day.